trying to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them. Hi, Jarrett. How are you? It is me, Lauren Conlon from Primetime Crime. We are live this morning. I have my coffee. I don't know about you.
I just finished one, so I'm pretty charged up. Good morning.
Good morning. No, I am not charged up. I am really tired. I had a stomach ache yesterday. I'm just feeling bad for myself because I'm tired. So sorry.
Well, listen, I'll try to help you out because there's so much going on. You know what's crazy? I was like, so for those of you that know, Lauren is in Manhattan. I'm in Pennsylvania. And so many of these cases are ending up in Pennsylvania that we're talking about. Like, I get Manhattan. It's supposed to be that way. Mm-hmm. And then inevitably between Brian Kohlberger, President Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And now we have Mr. Mangione being apprehended in Altoona, Blair County. So it's crazy, you know, so there's so much going on in true crime world. And, you know,
how far is that from you?
Christmas. It's just so, you know.
How far is Altoona from you?
It's about 4 hours west. It's 100 miles east of Pittsburgh. So it's a little bit of a haul.
Okay, so a little bit, but I wonder if you should go to the next arraignment. That would be really cool. You should stream from there. Oh my gosh, I guess 4 hours is kind of far though. You'd have to like make a day or night out of it, and that town looks like there's not too much there.
So the mayor, I've met the mayor of Altoona. We have a mutual friend, good guy. It's crazy. It's sad. But in the end, Altoona did the right thing here. It was their McDonald's. It was their employee. It was their community getting being aware and capturing this individual. So I don't know if I'll get out there. But basically what happens now is he's facing those charges there. We'll talk about all that. But he would then be extradited. This is no different than when they captured Kohlberger in the Poconos. He'll have any charges that would apply here, and then he would be extradited back to New York to face now pending charges in New York. So
right, and I cannot believe I watched the press conference last night with Steve. I think some of you guys in this chat were on Publicly Buzzed live, and I can't believe that police officer was only 6 months on the force who caught it. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like, when your career starts up here, you don't go up, you go down. I'm this morning, sorry. But I'm kind of like, oh, honey, this is like, enjoy this moment because it'll never happen again for you.
Well, you never know. Maybe he'll become a true crime podcaster or something if he peaks early in his career. But, you know, I found that I have always believed, at least in my career in the beginning and having young, passionate police officers, it's their new perspectives, it's their new ideas, it's their energy that they bring to a job that allows for this kind of thing. Not to say there's nothing to be said about experience. There is something to be said about that. But like, I don't know. I love the fact that it was a young officer who was being diligent and paying attention and that this person didn't slip through his fingers. So I thought it was great. I think that this particular officer has a bright career ahead of him, and I don't know that there'll ever be a case this big out of Altoona. I certainly hope not.
I know, right? I know. And then for anyone who is unaware, Luigi Mangione is the 26-year-old suspect that they have arrested. Right now, they've arrested him again in Pennsylvania. We can go through the Pennsylvania charges, but in connection with the shooting of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO in Manhattan on December 4th. And I mean, this manhunt has been wild. A lot of you guys follow me. I went all over town, tracing his steps last week and over the weekend, trying to figure stuff out. But, you know, the more cameras I saw, I knew that he was going to be caught sooner or later. But a couple things, there's a lot of misinformation going around, I believe. or I shouldn't even say misinformation, but there's information that hasn't exactly been verified. So I think, there's some doubts around this Substack manifesto. I don't know. I copied and pasted like a little part of it because I think that deep inside I was like, I'm not gonna put this entire link out and call it the manifesto, because truly it's like I don't know where it originated from. So
but Lauren, that's the document you sent me last night, right? That we went over, Jason and I shared. Yes. So
Jay sent it, yeah.
So Jason sent me, here's what's ringing true. Essentially, though, so there is an alleged manifesto that was posted on Substack yesterday. So, and in that document, there's a reference to an ailing mom and back issues with Mangione himself. So at a minimum, it seems to be the case that people close to him with personal knowledge of him do acknowledge there was a back procedure or a surgical procedure last year at some point. So some of that rings true. Again, I don't know that he's the writer of that document. It appears that whoever wrote that document has a real axe to grind with the medical insurance business, but and medical benefits business. But again, without being able to truly attest to its authenticity, it's hard to kind of go through it. But my phone was blowing up yesterday when they caught him, because I'm very proud of my Italian heritage. And all of my buddies from Pittston are like, hey, Paisan, what's going on? Look at Luigi Mangione. Could you believe this? And it's like,
so funny.
But
that's so funny.
Again, not to be flippant about it, but it's how there are people who take their Italian heritage very seriously where I come from, and this is like an infamita on them, and a besmirch of the Italian people, which it is not. So
right. Well, just pulling this up here, this right here, he does seem to have, this is his Twitter, which is valid. That the middle could be some kind of X-ray for his back. Somebody had said this, I forget who, maybe it was Dixie, I'm not sure, but she brought up a good point. She's like, he's like hopping on a bike, riding through Central Park, running, escaping, and he's got this bad back. It's kind of odd. I guess you can power through when you're that young. Anyone can power through, but really interesting. Let me scroll down through here.
Not only that, to get like clearly Mangione is in shape to get to that level of fitness. You have to do. I'm sure the guy's squatting. I'm sure he's deadlifting. And things of that nature. So again, I don't know. I'm not the back expert in my house. I happen to be married to a chiropractor, so I'll have her take a look at. I will have her take a look at some of that, but. It's
interesting. So, there's that, but it does seem too convenient that he had this on him, right? Like he had the two manifesto, like whatever in his backpack or his, whatever he was carrying. It's bizarre. And, I don't know if anybody saw reports on the arraignment last night, but when he was found, he had $8,000 in cash and $2,000 in foreign currency plus a passport. And he didn't say much to the judge. But when this was brought up, he said something along the lines of, I don't know who put that there, or just insinuating that it possibly could have been planted, but by whom? Does this mean there's somebody else involved? Because I keep going back, Jarrett, to who the hell was he talking to 15 minutes before the murder? So I think that, while police,
a couple of things. So I have found it's odd sometimes what defendants will lie about or take issue with. Here he is being accused of executing Brian Thompson in Manhattan, and he's taking issue with the claim that this amount of money was found on him. So it's
they
funny
weren't talking
sometimes
about murder or anything at that arraignment.
But he knew full well why he was taken into custody and that he was being looked at for that in New York. So it's funny sometimes what defendants will take issue with in a situation like that. I've had people say, like, I've had them be accused of heinous crimes and then say, you know, well, my car isn't red, it's maroon, you know, or something like that. So I don't know why he took issue with that. It is an interesting question. Who was he talking to? I think the one thing that jumped out at me was his age. You know, one of the things, and again, to go back to Kohlberger, who was 26 years old, and someone I went to school with who was in his mid-20s developed paranoid schizophrenia. And I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but it's odd to see men in their mid-20s at a graduate school level, intelligent by any stretch. The word genius gets thrown around. I know he was valedictorian, that's great, but intelligent, educated, bright future, and then there's this snapping or disconnect in their mid-20s. Now, the little bit of information I know about schizophrenia and mental health, a lot of times it develops at that point. At that point where, you know, you're not a kid anymore. It's time to grow up. It's time to make your way in the world. It's time to develop your own opinions about things. And these people, you know, I've seen it at that age in particular, 25, 26, you're seeing that disconnect, which I don't know. I mean, it's something worth noting.
Yeah. And Sal, I saw that you said this. I just want to point out that what caught my attention during the press conference was that NYPD had stated that he didn't have an arrest record in New York. He specifically said in New York. And I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if, you know, it could have been in another state, whatever. So I did do a background check on him, and I did find this case number where he was arrested in Hawaii for a petty misdemeanor, which was trespassing, criminal trespassing, I guess. And, you know, it seemed silly. He pled out, and I believe he got off with a fine. But what was interesting is that they didn't have an arrest affidavit. And I mean, and something that publicly buzzed, and Steve and I figured out last night, was that he was actually arrested almost a year to the day of the shooting, which I thought was so bizarre. So it just made me think, is this part of a bigger scheme? Because other defendants, like, you know, Brian Kohlberger, accused of trespassing, Jose Ibarra trespassing. So it's, I don't know. It's
and I know those crimes seem minor, Lauren, but the reality is, these are guys making trouble. Like, he's trespassing. My experience, if you get arrested for trespassing, you were warned first. Okay. 9 out of 10 times they tell you, get out of here. And then if you're found again, or you're acting like an ass when the police come, then you get charged. So I get trespassing is woefully below what he's facing now, but it's something. And here's the thing. You have a graduate student who is a valedictorian getting arrested. That's unique in and of itself. Making trouble in another state. I don't, it's showing me that he's heading down a path of maybe anti-authority, acting out. And again, oftentimes that's a slippery slope. Once you start violating the law and you start going down that path, it doesn't always end well. And it doesn't appear to be ending well for Mr. Mangione.
Well, let me pull this up. I'm waiting for this to process, but I do have that file that you can take a look at, his prior arrest. I feel like my computer might be slow today. Right, maybe if I take this down, let's see. And Afton, did you just say that? Yeah, I wonder what he's done that he hasn't gotten caught for. That's a really good point as well. Let me show you guys this. All right, so I'm pulling this, or basically zooming into this. So the state of Hawaii, can you let me, sorry, I guess I do have to have it open on my computer. I'm slow today, guys. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Oh, no, wait. You don't have to have it open on your computer for StreamYard. I'm so silly. Okay, there we go. That has more information. Jarrett, can you read that? Or I can read it out loud. I know it's small.
Sure. So it just says that he was arrested for criminal trespass located at the Numanu Pali Lookout, thereby committing the offense of closing of areas in violation of Section 13-146-4A of the Hawaii Administrative Code. If Luigi Mangione, also known as Luigi Nicholas Mangione, is found guilty, he shall be guilty of petty misdemeanor and shall be sentenced pursuant to 184-5, which is a fine and or up to 90 days in jail. So
yeah, he took the fine. I think it was literally like $100 or something crazy like that. But the fact that, I mean, there was multiple court dates in that docket. I had, I took a screenshot of it, but it did seem a little overzealous for trespassing. But then somebody who had experience in Hawaii told me that they do take this very seriously.
Well, and it appears it's some kind of estate land based on the definitions they cite from the section and the subsection. So I'm sure they do. But again, I trespassed onto a federal land. I think I talked about this. I was out for a run this year, and all of a sudden I have all these cops like on me at the beach, and I ended up in like an Air Force property inadvertently, like wasn't paying attention to the signs. I run down toward the water and it looked like a SWAT kind of situation, and they let me go. I was like, oh my God, guys, I'm sorry, I didn't even see the sign. And they're like, people miss it sometimes. And they kind of followed me while I was running out.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I mean, look, you said sorry, you didn't mean to, but like that, and that's my point. It's like, this happens all the time. I wonder what went down, and I wish there was some kind of affidavit available about the arrest. But
Lauren, those guys ID'd me.
Yeah,
they ID'd me, and I was, like I said, respectful. But like that was no joke. I mean, they stopped me. They must have checked. I know they checked. I'm sitting there, and so that's the other thing. So.
I know.
Again, my experience with the police in those kind of situations, if you act like an ass, you're going to be consequenced. Or if you repeatedly violate, you're going to have a problem. So,
yeah.
And he has bigger issues now than this, but it says something about where his head was way back in November in Hawaii.
Yeah, and I don't know him, but I guess I could speculate that maybe he is a bit arrogant, and maybe he, was kind of like, F you guys, whatever.
Yep.
But here, I'm going to add this. So this is the police criminal complaint from Pennsylvania, if you guys haven't seen this just yet. Now, if this is the offense description, I can go. I know it's so small. It's so annoying. And it talks about what happened upon arrival. Officers were able to locate the male matching the aforementioned description, sitting at the rear of the building at a table. He was wearing a blue medical mask and was looking at a silver laptop that was placed on the table. The male also had a backpack on the floor near the table he was sitting at. Co-affiant made contact with the male and informed that officers were called to McDonald's for a suspicious male matching his description. Co-affiant asked the male to pull down his medical mask so he could see his face. The male complied and pulled down his mask. Affiant and co-affiant immediately recognized him as the suspect from New York City. The incident after seeing photos of him released from media sources. Co-affiant asked the male for identification and provided officers a New Jersey driver's license bearing the name Mark Rosario and a date of birth, 7/21/1998. Affiant took the license and ran information through the dispatch center. Co-affiant asked the male if he had been to New York recently, and the male became quiet and started to shake. Sorry, I don't know why I said he's a murderer. Sorry. Started to shake. Additional units from the Altoona Police Department arrived on scene to assist affiant and co-affiant in identifying the male. At this time, dispatch was unable to find any information on NCIC with the information provided by officers. Lieutenant Hanley arrived on scene and ran information the male provided to officers, but still found that no record was available to be found. The male advised that he was under an official police investigation, and if he laid out his identity, he would get arrested. The male then stated that his name was the defendant, Luigi Mangione, with a date of birth of May 6, 1998. The driver's license that the defendant provided to officers was found to be a fake ID card. Fox asked the defendant why he lied out his name. Is that a thing? Lied out?
No, it should be about. It looks like
that's so weird. Thank you. Lied about his name. And the defendant replied, I clearly shouldn't have. Okay. Lieutenant Hanley then instructed officers to place the defendant into custody for 40101A3 forgery and 4914A false identification to law enforcement. The defendant was placed into custody, and the defendant was then handcuffed and searched on scene. The defendant was then transported back to the Altoona police station where his property was inventoried pursuant to Altoona Police Department's policy. And during the search of the defendant's backpack, officers located a 3D printed pistol and a black silencer. The pistol had a metal slide and a plastic handle with a metal threaded barrel. The pistol had one loaded Glock magazine with 6 9mm full metal jacket rounds. There was also one loose 9mm hollow point round. The silencer was also 3D printed. The defendant is being charged with forgery, firearms not to be carried without a license, tampering with records or identification, instruments of a crime, and false identification to law enforcement. The defendant will be fingerprinted and photographed. Okay. So there you have it. I mean,
I know what jumps off the page there to me.
Tell me.
I wish they would have got a warrant for that backpack.
Okay. You don't think the probable cause that he's wanted in New York?
Let's break this down.
Okay.
There are certain exceptions to a warrant. Okay. In Pennsylvania, in particular, and most of the 50 states, you can consent to a search.
Okay.
You can have a warrantless search if it is pursuant to an inventory search. So the theory would be Mangione is taken into custody. Mm-hmm. There is a policy within the Altoona Police Department that says when a person is arrested, okay, their mm-hmm. property that they come in with is inventoried. It is searched because we have a policy and we search that property and we inventory it. So no one can say we stole your money. No one can say we did this, X, Y, and Z. Okay. Here's my problem. Okay. Now that is an exception. It is a recognized exception. It could very well result in this evidence being accepted and not a problem. However, it is highly scrutinized when you don't have a warrant. I am hoping the Altoona Police Department has a policy for that. Okay. What about checking for weapons or bombs? That's true, but that's not what they say. They don't say they were checking for their safety. So you're bound by what's in the affidavit, the four corners of the document. You can't then say, oh, we were checking for bombs and guns. If you said that, you could make that argument. Here's my concern. If they knew who they were dealing with, and it is clear they knew who they were dealing with, you contact the FBI, you contact New York, you say, he was taken into custody. We have secured a backpack with him. Here's what it looks like. Prepare a warrant and search it. That policy of the Altoona Police Department is going to be vetted. If it is vetted and successfully challenged, arguably what was pulled from that backpack could be suppressed. Okay? That's my concern. Now, I am only playing devil's advocate. These cases are it's fine. It's an acceptable warrantless requirement, but why have this issue? To me, I would say get a warrant and cite your policy and say you were concerned there may be a bomb in there, which is a good point. It's just not there.
So wait, did the rookie possibly mess up after all?
Well, there's a lieutenant who's a co-affiant on this you don't get to be a lieutenant day one. So I would hope there was the way this works is there's usually a DA and an ADA brought right to that police station who are working on developing that very document we're reading. In addition to that, the information contained in that document could be the affidavit in support of a search warrant. So I'm just saying, I looked at this, I sent it to my buddy Drew, shout out to Drew McLaughlin, who I would routinely take with me to the police station. And Drew starts citing all the reasons. Oh, that's their policy, this and that. All the stuff Drew would be telling me is a problem. He was saying it should be okay because he was kind of disavowing my concern. But here's the thing. It is a legitimate concern. I don't think it's fatal to their case. I would have multi-layered that search with a warrant, though.
Yeah, right. Okay. I understand. So there are second degree murder charges for him in New York. I do not have that filing yet. I'm trying to get it, but I think at this point it might be up to him or Jarrett, you can talk about this in further detail, but like I don't think they can extradite him until after his next hearing in Pennsylvania. Is that right? Or he could get his lawyer to take care of all of that. I'm not sure.
He could waive extradition. So Poke Mom's asked another good question. So he's facing murder charges. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, once so that is an extraditable offense, clearly. Mm-hmm. They send that paperwork over to Pennsylvania and say, you have a defendant who is facing this very serious charge here. He would be brought in for a determination as to whether or not he is waiving extradition or fighting extradition. If he fights extradition to New York, he will remain in Pennsylvania while that process pleads out. Now, why or how would you fight that process? He would say, it's not me. I believe, I'm not just waiving this trial. Like Kohlberger waived it and was flown back to Idaho. So it's not clear what Mangione's intentions are. He is entitled to a public defender in Pennsylvania or an attorney of his choosing in Blair County, Pennsylvania, to advise him on that process. Ultimately, whether it's soon or a little later, he will be extradited by his own volition or through court order to face the charges in New York.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself that this kid, he probably wants to put off going to Rikers as long as possible if he knows what's good for him. I'm sure he'd be in protective custody, but Rikers is the worst place on earth. There's Sing Sing and there's a few other prisons that are horrible. But as far as jails go, yeah, Rikers is up there. So I don't know if he thought about that when he decided to commit this crime in New York. I mean, he's very intelligent. But did he think about where he would be housed and where he would be jailed?
I don't know that anybody ever sees it that far. And, the other thing, too, Warren, one question you asked, and Pokemon raises a good point, too. You asked, will the charges come federally or through New York State? And they will be, as typically homicide charges come through the state. So although the FBI was assisting because it became a multi-state search, the charges will be brought at the state level.
Okay. And I also saw that I think as of right now, he's going to use a public defender. But it's like, is his family not talking to him? It's like, you have to wonder all these things. Why would his family not hook him up with a stellar defense attorney right away if they do have money?
Well, you could have a stellar public defender, but here's the thing. He's 26 years old. So if a determination as to whether or not he is insolvent and unable to afford an attorney on his own, that determination isn't made on your family's wherewithal or financial means. It's based on this 26-year-old graduate student who appears to be living off the grid for the past several months. I can't imagine he has any income to speak of because I don't believe he was continuing to work. So they'll make an assessment on his financial ability to pay. And he may very well end up with a public defender. Now, Brian Kohlberger is represented by a public defender who's fighting like hell for him. Several public defenders.
Right.
So, you're talking about to defend one of these cases, our friend Arthur, for example, you could imagine, although Arthur's worth every penny, and make sure he knows we said that, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to represent an individual in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, if it's his life and it sounds like his family does have some money, then I would say it's worth it. And MJ, thank you so much. I'm just seeing this now. So, okay, this is just pulled from online. It's just case information. It doesn't have the exact, or I guess the arrest affidavit or anything like that. It just is kind of Yeah, there's nothing really. I guess there's nothing really there. I think there's another page. Here we go. Okay, here's the charges. Murder with intent. That's one count of that. One count loaded firearm. I don't get that. Why are they? There's 1, 2. So 2 counts of
one should be possessed. The other one would be used.
Oh, okay.
I would just a guess, but that's why you would. It's a crime to have it, and then it's a crime to use it in the city.
Okay. And I was also curious about the second degree murder charge instead of just murder. And I did see that in New York, in I guess in certain instances, it's only first degree if it's law enforcement or a judge or something like that.
Yeah, it does. This is a second degree murder under the New York law. It's a use of a firearm, deadly weapon on another person, intentional. So although like second degree is typically felony murder in other jurisdictions, like in Pennsylvania, in New York, it's a little unique. First degree is specified victim type, which would be court officer, police officer, medical personnel, things of that nature. So it's a second degree murder, which carries life in prison.
It still carries life. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it. I mean, yeah. So I was talking to NJ Burkett today. If any of you guys live in New York, he's ABC 7. He's been around forever. And, he had a really good take on this because it's so hard to fathom that, whatever's going on in your life and you've had this horrible experience, if the manifesto is real. But he was just like, I feel like this kid, he really wanted to start a discussion and spark this nationwide debate. And that's what he did. And he succeeded. So, I mean, because it's true. It's like, what is killing this CEO actually going to do for your, it's I don't know. It will.
Well, look, I think it's hard to have this conversation because it's kind of what he wants, I think. Yeah. So in a sense, we're doing his bidding, but what the hell, right? So let's have the conversation. I could tell you, it's hard to look. In a sense, our values and our assessment of these cases is a little upside down. You have Jordan Neely, who people want to hold up as a hero and a victim. And then you have someone like Brian Thompson, Jordan Neely, who was convicted of 42 criminal offenses in the past, had an arrest warrant, mental health history, and was high on K2. And then you have Brian Thompson, who was on paper an insurance executive, operating a major operation, had a family, etc. He's the villain. Neely is a hero. And these are the way things are playing out in the press. I think sometimes reporters and people online love to buck the system. They love to kind of play against the archetype. I get that. But what I think this conversation is really about is Brian Thompson, an insurance executive earning $10 million a year, who is rewarded when his company doesn't pay out too much, to oversimplify his job, that there's more money held, and there are certain controls and guardrails in place as to whether or not to pay a particular medical procedure or diagnostic testing, things of that nature. They're like tax collectors, medical IRS agents. Like, nobody likes medical insurance, okay? I had a health clinic that my wife and I were the proprietors of. She operated. It's extremely difficult when you're advocating for your patients who are clearly hurting, who want to be reimbursed or paid, and to go through and United Healthcare is tough. Believe me, they're one of the worst. So anyone could appreciate frustration with an organization like that. And I think it's being directed toward Brian Thompson because he was at the top of that organization. And it's unfortunate because in one hand, he's the victim of a murder, and another hand, he could be viewed as representing everything that's wrong with the medical insurance industry. And it's spawning this conversation. It sucks that he was murdered. It's wrong. And it's never right to take the law into your own hands in that manner. Okay. However, I get why people want to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's fine to have the conversation. It's like, wow, are we really having it because somebody was murdered in cold blood on camera? And unfortunately, yeah, we are. But, Trial Junkie, you brought this up. It's sickening to me, and it actually, I think that's part of the reason I couldn't sleep last night for a lot of reasons. I talked about this briefly with Steve, if you heard it, but I had somebody respond to me on Instagram, and you guys know me, I don't fight online, but I had put something up and I had screenshotted just the fangirls of Luigi Mangione. And they're like, oh, baby, I'll put money in your commissary. I know you had your reasons. And I'm just like, I don't understand society.
They're probably Russian bots.
So this person that I barely know that follows me, they like responded to me and they're like, I'm unfollowing you because you have more sympathy for the CEO than the tens of thousands of people that he murdered. And I'm like, are you okay? That is absolutely unequivocally not what this is about right now. I am literally commenting on our society who is celebrating a murder. Okay. Yes, the healthcare system needs to be fixed. And it's unfortunate that we have to have this conversation, as I said, because of somebody getting murdered. And Brian Thompson is not the only person responsible. Anyone celebrating his murder, I find that so disturbing. And then coupling that with the Daniel Penny verdict, which we're going to get to. Arthur Aidala was on CNN last night. We brought this up, and I was so happy that he jumped on the host. I forget the host's name, but she said something. Well, now we have Luigi Mangione, and she painted him in a positive light. And then she said, and then we have Jordan Neely, who Daniel Penny decided wasn't worth living or didn't deserve to live. And he's like, no. You are so wrong here. These are completely different. And something he said that was so just accurate. He said, not one person that rides the subway every day is upset about this verdict. Not one person. Okay. And then you have Hawk Newsome, the BLM asshole who, and I shouldn't say that, he does a lot of good things for his community, but he is sitting there inciting violence and saying, well, we need Black vigilantes now. And I was just like in bed and I was like, what is happening?
But the thing is, Daniel Penny never decided Jordan Neely didn't need to live.
No.
It was never charged as an intentional act.
He didn't know that he died after.
Jordan Neely needed to be restrained. Okay. Yeah. He never decided he needed to die. And a jury, in addition to, none of the facts would suggest that, and the jury didn't buy it either. So,
yeah,
look, this case, if and I've said this since the beginning, if Jordan Neely was white, Daniel Penny would have done the same thing. And the fact that he was a Marine was used against him. Yes. But it should also be noted, Marines deal in threat assessment. He is acutely aware of when someone is likely to act out. And one of the things, like everybody always talked about Jordan Neely's criminal background, and I understand that in the larger conversation, it's somewhat relevant. Daniel Penny in the moment didn't know any of that. Yeah. You only can judge what Daniel Penny knew at that time. And here's the thing. If Jordan Neely's race is relevant to the conversation, and so is Daniel Penny's, then so is the race of the people he was protecting, which included people of color and women and children on that subway. Why isn't that being talked about? Why isn't Mr. Newsome saying, hey, by the way, Mr. Penny, who you're saying is racist, was protecting people of color who you say he doesn't care about on the train? If race is where you see this, like if Jordan Neely is only defined by his race in your eyes, then how isn't the race of those individuals being considered in your assessment of this entire situation? That's the problem, as I see it.
Yeah, no,
amongst other problems. Look, I think what's happening in this Alvin Bragg and what's happening in this country with prosecution as a prosecutor, like I have said this too. We're in the murder and mayhem business. That wasn't a murder. Donald Trump didn't commit murder. Okay. The bodega owner didn't commit murder. Okay. Get back to prosecuting actual killers. All right. heroes in their eyes are the criminals, and the victims are the bad guys in these scenarios. They're the criminals, and it's wrong. The whole world in the Manhattan DA's office is upside down, and the people of Manhattan are not less safe because Daniel Penny is out today or on the street today, a free man, and will remain a free man.
Do you think Daniel Penny is ever going to stick up for anyone in peril or in trouble ever again? Probably not. I guarantee this man is like, I'm
beyond him though, Lauren. It's more than just if you look at this, right, and you know what happened. Even though Daniel Penny was acquitted, okay, this has cost him his reputation, ridiculous amounts of money. If I'm on the subway, right, I'd like to think I would do something to protect women and children, particularly women and children in my life. If I'm on a subway, I would try to do something, right? But then you say to yourself, maybe not. I don't want to be viewed as being racist. I don't want to be viewed. It has a chilling effect that will chill people doing the right thing. Like, and that's not to say, like, you could say that and feel that way and still feel bad about how Jordan Neely's life played out. It's sad. I mean, the guy was a criminal. He had mental health problems. I wish that wasn't the case, but that's the case. Do I wish his life was better? Do I wish his father was more active in his life when his mother was murdered? Yeah, I do. But I also don't think it's as simple as a conversation just about race.
Yeah, nope. And I said this last night with Steve. I don't know how I would feel if, my purse is loaded. If you guys saw, I took out my retractable baton, my mace, everything. And I just don't know how I'd feel if I was confronted or attacked or felt threatened by somebody because of what's been going on in Manhattan. And that's not fair. I don't feel comfortable, and it just sucks. But I guess, we've clearly moved on from Luigi Mangione, and here we are with the Penny verdict. I was happy. I shared a statement that was made yesterday by his attorneys. I can pull that up right now. It was a blind email. I don't actually know how I got on that. Oh, that's so weird. Wait, this is so crazy. I just realized when I searched when I was searching my email for that notice that they sent out yesterday, they had already emailed me because Tom Caniff was running for Manhattan DA. I did not know that, and they wanted people to campaign for him. I totally didn't respond.
It's already starting.
This was 3 years ago. I didn't even respond. I'm such a jerk. Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
You mean it's an old email on his campaign?
No, it was, sorry. I was looking for the new one, but this is what came up in my email just now when I was searching for it. I was like, oh, whoops.
But Lauren, one of the things, and I think another point worth making is when you look at victims now I've had and have been a part of a lot of prosecutions and homicide prosecutions in my life. More often than not, your victim is not an innocent actor. Oftentimes, my victims have been members of gangs. They've been drug dealers, okay? Criminals have been victims in my career, and victims have been criminals, okay? The level of care and the level of commitment to those cases, I'm going to tell you, doesn't change. Like, their murder matters to me. Their killing matters to me because murder is bad. Whoever it is, be it Brian Thompson, if Jordan Neely was actually murdered, his case would be, I would prosecute his case. And with as much fervor as I have to give. Like, that's what's getting lost here. Like, and I'm sure, I would hope Alvin Bragg's office has gangland slayings and victims that are undesirables being protected and vindicated. I would think maybe not in his office. Who knows?
Don't get me started. I could do a whole show on the Manhattan DA's office and how ridiculous they are. But this statement from Razor and Caniff, it says, "We couldn't be more pleased that a jury of Danny's peers acquitted him of any wrongdoing. And now New Yorkers can take some comfort in knowing that we can continue to stand up for one another without sacrificing our rights or our freedoms." I don't really have a lot of comfort still, because again, like you mentioned, what has happened to him. Even though he was found innocent, it's like, you know, he's been painted like this murderer by, let's say, what, at least 40% of the country, who seem to be in that mindset that, you know, Luigi Mangione was in the right, and that someone like Daniel Penny was in the wrong and should spend 15 years in prison for trying to stick up for the people on the train. And it's just,
and it's like, not over. He's got a civil claim pending now, which here's another point about the civil claim. He's being sued for a negligent killing. Okay, that's the level. So, and these aren't just words. That's a level of intent. Negligent, reckless killing of Jordan Neely by Jordan's father. And essentially to get that, so I can't imagine. Daniel Penny is a kid. I mean, he's young. He just got out of the Marines. He was in school. Like, I can't imagine he has any money worth pursuing in a civil lawsuit. Okay. Then you're still wrestling with whether or not the killing of Jordan Neely was reckless or negligent. And a jury has already looked at this. A jury with people of color, a jury with black jurors have said, you didn't get there on reckless and you didn't get there on negligence. So I can't imagine any money's being paid out.
But
that means they're going to fight. They're going to go the distance back and into another courtroom.
No, and I had said that civil case makes me so angry. I'm just like, really? Now you want money? That is just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But here, if you want to, you know what? I think we can move on from Daniel Penny to, if you guys are cool with that. Jared, are you cool with that? I was going to share.
Yeah, and just one more point about the status of prosecution in this country. Then you have the Trump prosecutions and Hunter Biden being pardoned. Like, this is a joke. What's going on? A prosecution has become so bastardized and politicized that this is a call out to all the real prosecutors out there. Let's start prosecuting actual killers and thieves again.
Yeah, right? Wouldn't that be something? People that actually deserve it? Goodness. Okay. So here, I'm going to share this. Did I pull this? Oh, let me pull this up. All right. So many of you are aware that Jay-Z was recently named in a lawsuit that was refiled by the Busby law firm over the weekend. So this law firm, this Jane Doe, she had originally filed in October, but there are two celebrities that were named in this suit, Celebrity A and Celebrity B. There's a male and a female, and she has since named Jay-Z as the male celebrity. So Jay-Z has hired Quinn Emanuel, and that is his lawyer in particular is Alex Spiro, who also represented Alec Baldwin and represents somebody else recently that I just saw. I'm blanking on it. Someone in the chat, if you could remind me, because I'm brain dead. It was literally somebody accused of something having to do with Diddy, but he also represents Tupac's family as well. But I can't remember the other person. But this is a letter that they wrote to the judge, which is really interesting, asking for this case to be dismissed right away. And if you were on my stream yesterday on Pop Crime TV, we also went over Jay-Z's statement, which really seems to indicate that he's angrier at Tony Busby than he is at the Jane Doe who made these accusations, which is just like it. You know, I did not catch that. I guess I caught the fact that he didn't deny anything, but I did not catch that he was just taking all of his anger out on Tony Busby. And it's just bizarre. It's like, what do you have against Busby? I mean,
well, it's easy to blame the lawyers, you know. That's the thing. It's like make the lawyers the bad guy. You know, he'll paint Busby as a extortionist and an ambulance chaser, basically. And it's easy to blame him when he cannot name the victim. Okay.
Right. Sure.
So there's that. But one of the points you made, and I saw your post about Jay-Z's statement, is that he didn't deny it. And again, this case is quite old at this point. And it's going to come down to a he said, she said. I am not going to pretend I have any idea what happened. I know what's alleged to have happened. If it happened, I hope that this victim finds justice. If it didn't happen, I hope that Jay-Z finds justice. Okay. I don't know. I mean, who the hell knows what happened? But this is going to play out in the courts and in the media. But you cannot be accused of something this heinous and not have your reputation totally tarnished. And it's an awful accusation to have made against you. And Jay-Z, I think his response was very aggressive.
Weird. Really
and I
weird.
think there are some people, particularly President Trump, tends to respond to allegations in that manner, that way. And I think it's been effective for him. I don't know. I just don't know if that approach is going to be successful here.
Yeah, this letter to the judge, which is actually, it was from yesterday. The first paragraph is, we write on behalf of our client, Sean Carter, concerning the inflammatory allegations made against him in the recently filed amended complaint. Based on the meritless and frivolous accusations, Mr. Carter filed the motion to deny plaintiff's request to proceed anonymously, which, we've seen that another woman recently had to use her name, to dismiss the complaint pursuant to blah, blah, blah this morning. Due to the highly sensitive nature of this matter and the intense media scrutiny it has generated, we respectfully request to be heard on an expedited basis. And then in the second paragraph is where he says, for the avoidance of doubt, Mr. Carter is entirely innocent. This is a shakedown. So it is interesting that they begin this letter with, we want to make this go away really, really quickly because it's caused, so much drama in his life and the media is going crazy. And then it's like, oh, by the way, he's innocent. I don't know.
So it's a 12B1 motion. They're asking to hear it as soon as possible. And they're saying the reason is because of the amount of coverage and the things it's doing to Mr. Carter's life, Jay-Z's life. Mm-hmm. And then he says he's innocent. This is a shakedown. Now, people keep saying to me, this is all about money. They want money. This is a civil lawsuit. That's what civil lawsuits are about.
Yeah,
it's about money. Okay. And Jay-Z and Diddy have a lot of money. All right. So you, in the civil realm, there's very little you can do other than have your damages assessed and a check cut to you. It is about money. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. That doesn't mean it's not wrong. But so when people tell you it's about money, you would say in this particular situation, it is. In Diddy's pending criminal matters, it's not only about money, it's about justice and crimes committed. Here's the interesting point that gets made in Spiro's letter, though, that in no way is Jay-Z a target of an ongoing federal investigation as it relates to Diddy. That's a compelling point. And it's no small point that Spiro signs his name to this letter on behalf of Jay-Z and says he is not the subject of an ongoing investigation with anything related to Diddy. That means the people that have reverse engineered Diddy's life, the federal agents that raided his house, the federal agents that took all those phones and all that baby oil, aren't looking at Jay-Z, okay? According to Alex Spiro. Now, a lawyer who makes a claim like that to a federal judge, we have an obligation of a duty of candor to the tribunal. We have an obligation to be truthful. That is a bold statement. I believe Alex Spiro is speaking truthfully. He's not aware of anything because if it's later shown that he could be in hot ethical soup for that particular claim.
Let me ask you.
That's no small comment. That's a big statement.
Why is this civil case a federal civil case?
Because of so it's brought federally. Things could be federal cases for a couple of reasons. Number one, the amount of money involved and the diversity of statehood or jurisdiction for the parties. So if the victim resides in a different state other than Diddy or Jay-Z, you can bring the claim in federal court. If there are certain federal allegations that are being made, it's best brought in federal court. So This particular, I believe it's based on diversity of jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But the other thing that Spiro says in the letter, he's neither a target nor a person of interest. We know there was a grand jury. If you are a target of a grand jury, oftentimes you get what's called a target letter. So Spiro's saying, Jay-Z, that has not happened. That's a profound
that's interesting.
statement. Very telling. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, but again, that to me, that doesn't mean that he didn't do this, right? And
no, it just means, but there was a lot of speculation, at least that I've seen, that Jay-Z's the next to go down. Jay-Z's jammed up in this whole Diddy thing, not according to his lawyers who go, it's not just, used car salesman speak. This is a filing to a federal judge.
Yeah. I never, and I guess I don't really pay attention, or I try not to with some of that, because I'm not thinking here that Jay-Z was partnering up with Diddy and flying these girls in and this and that. Neither. I don't think that about a handful of celebrities. But what I do think is that they participated and maybe enjoyed whatever Diddy kind of put in front of them at parties, late night, after hours, whatever. And I mean, does that put them in the same place as Diddy right now and MDC? No, it's different because they didn't facilitate it. But I mean, and I think what a lot of people were wondering, because Jay-Z actually brought this up in his stupid rebuttal, but why isn't this a criminal case? If you read through this lawsuit, she does say that a gas station attendant saw her distress, saw that she was upset, allowed her to use the phone. We have her dad that came to pick her up. So I feel like they could build a criminal case if they wanted to.
Well, again, that's not Tony Busby's decision. It's not, right. Busby doesn't have that option. He could only pursue them in civil court. Whether or not it is ultimately going to become a criminal case, I don't know. I mean, look at the Cosby case, for example. Bill Cosby was arrested and charged criminally. And then there were a host of civil claimants that were not part of a civil case or the criminal case because of the expiration of the statute of limitations, for example. And that's why that particular one didn't necessarily have its feet in both civil and criminal court. Jay-Z makes a good point. He's like, I'm being accused of a crime, but I'm not being arrested. I'm being sued by a civil lawyer. I think that's a good point to be made and a fair point, but Tony Busby doesn't have the luxury of choosing to go to criminal court or civil. He has one option: sue Jay-Z. Okay, that's it, in civil court. But the argument can be made, hey, a DA or the U.S. attorney looked at this information and did not move forward on charges against Jay-Z.
Okay. So
fair enough.
Right.
But,
okay.
So
yeah.
It's an important point to be made. But again, Tony Busby doesn't have the option of, I could have brought this in criminal court.
Right. Okay. And Trial Junkies asked, could there be an investigation that Spiro didn't know about?
Yes, a couple of things. I don't know for how long he's been representing Jay-Z as to whether or not Jay-Z's aware of something he didn't tell Spiro about. So he has plausible deniability and the ability to make that claim. Or there could be something that Jay-Z did not receive a target letter about or is not aware of personally that is ongoing. So yes, it is entirely possible. It's just my reading of this letter would suggest to me that Spiro is not aware of it.
Right. Okay. And then the statute of limitations on what he's accused of, I don't think there is one with grape, by the way. I think that's pretty much no statute in New York.
It keeps getting extended. I don't know what, first of all, so she was a minor at the time. So the statute is, you would typically add 5 years to the already extended statute. So Afton's question is really good. If there is a statute of limitations involved, then that cannot be brought criminally, but it also means it was never brought criminally prior to this time. So Jay-Z's point is still valid.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I mean, no, it's interesting. I just feel like the initial statement and then this letter, it's like, just I would not want my name anywhere attached to this if my innocence was true and genuine. I just would literally, the first thing I would say is, I did not do this. I want to know, Jared, was he at this party? Did people see him at this party? Wouldn't you say that? Like, I wasn't even there. I don't even know what she's talking about.
You could bet there is information that puts Jay-Z close to this incident. Because Busby cannot just make up, like, what if Jay-Z has an alibi? It's tied to the VMAs, so they know where these guys were at. So if Jay-Z has an alibi and says, no, after those VMAs, I wasn't even with Diddy.
Exactly.
Again, that doesn't mean he's liable or committed this act. It's a horrible thing to be accused of, but it's worse if he did it.
Yeah.
People have been wrongfully accused. I'm willing to accept the fact that this has to play out. Okay. Mm-hmm. We don't know everything yet, but that's a great point you're making. Like, my initial reaction would be, I didn't do this. And I would tell everybody that had a camera, I didn't, I have children. I'm being accused of this, and more or less Jay-Z is denying it. In an interestingly an aggressive way,
right?
So I don't.
In a weird way, where it's like, it's just funny when that statement came out. All the media outlets are like, he vehemently denies it, and I'm like, he didn't deny it once. What are you talking about? Yeah. He's literally talking crap about the lawyer, and that's it. And something else that I meant to dig into, but I haven't gotten a chance to yet, is in terms of statement. He said something. Let me find it. Here, I'll just share this really quickly. I sent it to, somebody, not Jack Fox this time. I sent it to somebody else.
First of all, my lawyer received a blackmail attempt called a demand letter. Okay, that's what settlement letters are called, demand letters.
Yeah, I know, right?
All right, like, it's not like you're my hostage and I have a list of demands. That's what they're called. So that's a little play on words there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot here. I'm trying to find exactly what he had said something. I mean, well, first of all, I will not give you one red penny. I found that to be so bizarre. The red penny. I mean, what is that? And I know it's a term that people use and they throw around, but I'm kind of like, what does that mean? What would that indicate, subconsciously in his brain? What was he thinking to say red penny?
Well, it's an expression that's basically like, he's not, if you told Jay-Z 1 penny will make this thing go away, he's saying you're not even getting that out of me.
Yes, no, I know what it means, or what, whatever, but I just thought it was strange. Now, something else that he had said, and this is what the statement analyst had pointed out. He said, "My heart and support goes out to the true victims in the world who have to watch how their life story is dressed in costume for profitability by this ambulance chaser in a cheap suit." The fact that he said costume, he thought was interesting in terms of just leakage, right? Leakage as to what could have possibly happened, going back to Chris Watts saying the girls, I expected them to come barreling in. They were found in barrels. I noticed that Patsy Ramsey in the JonBenet doc, she said something like, I went bounding up the stairs, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. JonBenet, her wrists were bound, her neck was bound. That could be leakage. So the costume aspect for me was interesting because this was the after party of the Video Music Awards, and there could be costumes. I have to go back and look and see who was performing. Was the female celebrity in the room previously costumed? I don't know, but it was really interesting when you break this down bit by bit. And if you don't believe in this type of stuff, then you're going to think that this is just crazy nonsense. But if you do, you will know what I'm talking about.
Well, it's like could be a Freudian slip, right? Is that what you're saying? So I get that, but and I'm reading this again. boy, he really goes at Busby personally. And Busby responded, citing the fact that he was a Marine.
With a picture.
And things of that nature. So, you know, I don't know that you need, right. And Oasis Cat said, Red Cent. I agree. But I think, you know, Jay-Z went on to make the point, it's a penny we're talking about here. So,
I mean, and I'm going to just, you know, speculate that it was a large amount that she wanted. You know, if he seemed so appalled by, you know, giving money to, it was just like, I just assume it was a lot of money. I really want to know the amount, but I mean,
it's big bucks. It's big bucks. And now, if Busby believed he had leverage, the way this works is if you have this information and it's unpleasant, and Jay-Z looks at this, look, Pete Hegseth, same thing. Like, he resolved his claim, so it didn't go public, right?
Right.
Okay. So you may say, look, I have a reputation. I'm a public person. I don't want this stuff out there. I'm going to resolve it in the interest of my name. Okay. Yeah. So Busby has this leverage. He says, look, we have this claim that's been made. We have a witness who says, or a victim who says this happened on this date at this time. In an effort to resolve this so as not to publicly name you, we want $25 million, you know, something like that. Here's the problem. If this claim is pursued against Diddy and it was to play out in the courts, you could never keep Jay-Z's name out of this. No, good luck trying to do that.
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
If in fact, if, you know, Jay-Z was truly that celebrity, it was like, you could never tell that story in court by saying, the victim wouldn't get on and say it was Diddy and another celebrity. It's like, that's creates a problem in your account of the situation.
You know, and I keep going back to Ariel Mitchell Kidd, and I know that, you know, this was a different client she was working with, but if you recall at the beginning of all of this, when all of the lawsuits first started to drop, she said she had video footage of another celebrity that was bigger than Diddy, arguably. So I'm kind of like, how are you guys able to hide that? You know, or maybe it won't be for long because the names are starting to drop, like, you know, Jay-Z. So who knows? But something that gets also just really annoying throughout all of this is like, I'm a young man who made it out of the project of Brooklyn. We don't play these types of games. Okay, you can make it out of the project of Brooklyn and still do bad things. I mean, it's like, thank you so much for your resume, but nobody asked. Literally.
That to me is a veiled threat. He's saying, I don't play these types of games. I play other games, which doesn't involve sport. That's what he's saying. Yeah. That's what he's saying. I mean, that's a threat. So, you know, and Busby responded by saying, I'm not afraid of the games you play, basically. So
totally. Well, Jared, this was fun. Next week is going to be interesting. We will figure out some time to jump on. So I'm going to be gone next week, but I will actually be at the pretrial hearing in Oklahoma for the 3 suspects in the case against Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. So I'm going to try to hop on at some point and give breakdowns and tell everybody what's going on. And if you follow that case, the witness list, you know, they keep adding new people, but 2 of the suspects, Paul Grice and Cora Twombly, are set to testify. So it should be pretty crazy. I'm definitely a little nervous. So it's like, I haven't sat through a pre-trial like this, or even, I guess, like a full trial. I mean, I went to a day or 2 of Karen Reed, but I think that I'm very nervous for the pictures, if they show any pictures. And, you know, I don't know. It's so awful and scary.
In a setting like that, let me say this, since you're only talking to, why do I always say, let me say this? You're going to let me say whatever I want.
Notice that you said, I didn't notice that. In a setting
like that, the pictures are just shown typically directly to the judge. So you wouldn't necessarily see them. If they're up on the big screen, the prosecutor's grandstanding for the audience, which there's no need to do that, because the finder of fact in that situation is this lower court judge. All you're trying to do again is prove that minimal standard that Tiffany and Tad are they're the people that more likely than not committed these crimes. So those pictures that could be presented in a pretty clean fashion without all the pomp and circumstance of a typical trial. And I've had some of these preliminary hearings, I've had them in rooms that you like a shoebox where you're sitting right next to the defendant. You're like, here, judge, here's the picture. It's like,
are you serious?
Yeah. If they don't have them at the regular big courthouse, you're in a small magisterial hearing office where the crime is more recent. The victims are there. Their families are there. I've had, I call them riots. I've had like fights with multiple people involved break out in those things. I remember one time a chair just flew by me like this.
Oh my God. No, I think the courthouse, they said, I mean, it's a reasonable size, but I called and they said they're not saving any room for media. It's going to be first come, first serve. And I was like, oh, great. How do I guarantee a spot? And she's like, you got to show up early. So I might be hanging out there at like 6 a.m., I guess, just waiting.
Well, and then the other thing is because there's so many defendants here, that would be a reason to have it at the big courthouse and all those security things. As I'm talking through this, it's going to be at their county courthouse.
Yeah, it's at the Texas County Courthouse. I already know that. But that makes me feel a little better, actually, that maybe there wouldn't be graphic images shown.
I don't know. I think it's possible, but there's a way to do it in this particular situation where they wouldn't have to. Or you could face it just toward the judge. If it's on a screen and they have the electronic capability to do that, you can face that screen against the judge. I've done that too, where the judge can see it and the crowd can't.
Right.
You know, but again, I don't know what the setup looks like there, but I would hope, just because family and then I would do this thing beforehand. I know we've talked about this before. I'd take a picture, or a witness would get on the stand that's going to review those types of exhibits, and I would say, Your Honor, at this time, I would like to announce that we are about to display photographs of the deceased. They are graphic in nature. I am letting everyone in the courtroom know, if you feel you need to leave, please take this time to do so now. And then the judge says it. And it's just a moment where everybody's like, oh, shit, like it's about to get real. And then you inevitably hear people shuffle out, and then some people stay.
Yeah, I would be shuffling out. And Sal, that would never happen. So literally, no, never. I wouldn't even. No, I'm not. I'll be fine. I'll get up at the ass crack of dawn and I'll be good. But I'll try to give everybody updates from there as best I can.
And we're following this case. This is one that's been near and dear to our hearts. So.
Yep. So all right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And Jarrett, thank you as always. Everybody,
thank you.
Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you guys soon.
Happening, you're trying to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them. All right.